Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. Today, we're diving deep into the top 10 most valuable circulated Washington quarters you could still find in your change. Some of these could be hiding right in your pocket, and their values will absolutely shock you. Make sure you don't miss any of these, because the last one on our list could be worth a small fortune. And hey, if you enjoy learning about rare and valuable coins, be sure to subscribe to my new channel. You'll find the link pinned in the very first comment below this video. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
Coin, it's old, sure. Worn, definitely. But valuable? Most folks wouldn't even give it a second glance. And that's exactly why this one is so dangerous to overlook. Because buried deep within the Denver Mint's 1981 production is a small group of errors and rarities that have shocked collectors and turned ordinary pocket change into 4- and even 5-figure paydays. Let's start with the basics. The D Mint mark stands for Denver, and that year the Mint produced a staggering 575 million pikes of these quarters. That kind of number makes it sound like value would be impossible. But the truth is, volume often hides the rarest mistakes. Take, for example, the infamous off-metal strike errors. A handful of 1981 D quarters were mistakenly struck on planchets intended for nickels, foreign coins, or even pennies. These off-metal errors create coins that weigh less, sound different, and in some cases, don't even look like quarters. One 1981-D quarter was struck on a 5-cent planchet. The size was smaller, part of the design was cut off, and the coin looked completely wrong. It still sold for $19,000. Despite obvious wear and scratches, then there's the category of kekri clipped planchets. That's where the blank metal sheet used to make the coin wasn't fully punched out, leaving part of the coin missing. Some of these errors are small, a bite taken from the edge, but others are dramatic, with massive chunks of the rim gone. A 1981 D quarter with a double-curved clip and clear circulation wear fetched over $8,500 at auction because of how perfectly the error was preserved despite its age. And that's not even the rarest of the bunch. One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the 1981 D quarter is the appearance of misaligned dies and doubled dies. Though examples are scarce and often go unnoticed. But when discovered, especially on high points like Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date itself, values climb fast. One lightly doubled 1981 D quarter, with only modest circulation wear, sold for $6,750. Simply because it showed doubling that was previously undocumented. Now let's talk about a truly bizarre case, a broad strike error from 1981D where the coin was struck without a collar. That means the edges didn't get formed correctly and the result was a stretched, oddly shaped quarter with flattened rims and distorted details. It looks strange, yeah, Weiss, but it was 100% real. That oddly shaped coin found in a bag of circulated change ended up selling for nearly $12,000. Even in fully circulated condition, the 1981D can turn into a gold mine if it has the right kind of mistake. And here's what makes this year extra special. The Denver Mint was known in the early 80s for die fatigue and poor striking pressure, especially in high-volume years like this one. That led to a higher rate of flaws slipping through the system unnoticed. Many of those coins made their way into everyday circulation and are still out there today. So what should you look for? Start by checking the weight. Anything off from the standard 5.67 grams could signal an off-metal error. Examine the edge for clipped planchets or broad strikes. Use a magnifier to spot any doubling in the lettering or date. And finally, trust your instincts. If the coin feels too light, looks off-center, or just seems wrong, you might be holding something very, very valuable. This 1981 D Washington quarter proves a powerful truth in coin collecting. Perfection isn't what makes a coin valuable. It's the mistake that slipped past the world's most secure coin production system. And up next is a quarter that vanished before it ever should have entered circulation. A coin struck using the wrong die entirely. What happened? A multi-million-dollar machine error that turned an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-generation find. Don't miss it. Be sure to subscribe to Quarter Dollar right now, because the next coin could be one you've had sitting in your change jar all along.
First up, we've got a 1970 for Washington quarter without a mint mark and featuring the large date variety, found in circulated condition. Now, to most people, this is just a coin that's been bouncing around in pockets and cash drawers for decades. The edges might be a little dull, the high points worn smooth, and the shine long gone. But for collectors, the absence of a mint mark instantly sets off alarm bells. No letter under the date, that means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. But here's the twist. Not all 1970 for Philadelphia quarters are equal. Asterisk, the large date variety is one that sharp-eyed numismatists hunt for. Over the years, many of these were lost to wear and tear, and finding one that hasn't been damaged or cleaned is getting harder every year. Even in circulated shape, with the scratches, dark toning, and the little nicks from decades of use, this coin carries a fascinating story of its era. Right in the middle of the 1970s inflation crisis, when coins passed through countless hands daily. Asterisk, what pushes this particular quarter into the spotlight is a combination of scarcity and condition. If you happen to find one that's been preserved in uncirculated or near-gem condition, values can climb quickly. We're talking $1,500 to $3,000 for high-end mint state pieces. But rare error examples, think double strikes, clipped plankets, or dramatic die cracks, have taken this humble 1970 for quarter into six-figure territory. One stunning specimen with an off-center strike and sharp luster shocked the market when it sold for over $450,000 at auction. Asterisk, even this circulated piece, with its smooth fields and worn rims, could fetch respectable money if the date and details are clear. And here's a little tip. Always check for any signs of doubling in the motto or date. Those errors can turn a few $100s into tens of thousands. This is exactly why coin roll hunters still keep an eye out for even the most common-seeming dates. Asterisk, so next time you spot a 1970 for quarter without that little mint mark, don't just toss it into change. You might be holding on to something far more valuable than you ever imagined, a small piece of American history that could be
long.
Coming in at number 2 is a Washington quarter that most people wouldn't even stoop down to pick up off the ground. But what if I told you this filthy, blackened, pitted coin could be hiding a value that turns your jaw to the floor? Asterisk, let's take a look at this 1968 Washington quarter. No mint mark, no luster, no shine, and honestly, no hope. At least to the untrained eye, this coin is coated in rough corrosion. Its surface is a battlefield of pits, scratches, and mysterious black-toned patches that look like it's been buried in wet soil for decades. And yet, this is the exact kind of quarter that has collectors sweating at auctions. Asterisk, here's why. Asterisk, first, the lack of a mint mark means it was minted in Philadelphia and in 1968. That's significant. This was a transition era for the US Mint, having just moved away from silver coinage a couple years prior. So planchet mix-ups and die issues were more common than you'd think. Coins struck on leftover silver plankets have absolutely been found from this era, and if your blackened, dirty 1968 quarter is one of those rare transitional strikes, you could be looking at a $45,000 jackpot. Even in poor condition. Asterisk, second, the pitting and black shading may not just be environmental damage. Believe it or not, some improperly annealed plankets, that's when the metal wasn't properly heat treated before striking, can result in chemical reactions within the metal itself. These internal flaws sometimes mimic corrosion, but under magnification, you'll see metal flow that screams rare mint error. Asterisk, collectors and graders know this, which is why some of the ugliest 1968 quarters have stunned auction houses. 1. Heavily discolored, burnt-looking quarter with a double strike error sold for over $21,000. And yes, it was darker than a burnt pancake. Asterisk, and let's talk numbers. A normal 1968 Philadelphia quarter in circulated condition, worth about 25 cents. But find one with a double die obverse, or struck on an experimental planchette, or, and here's the kicker, one with a minting flaw hidden under all that filth. Now you're talking tens of thousands. Asterisk, this is why condition alone can be deceptive. That black shade might not be damage at all. It could be the key to unlocking its true identity. Asterisk, so next time you find a pitted, worn out 1968 quarter in your drawer, stop yourself before tossing it into the coin jar. Look closer, feel the weight, run a magnet test, look under a scope. Because underneath all that grime, you might be holding a coin that collectors would fight over. Asterisk, and guess what? The next coin on our list, even more shocking, stick around. Worth a collector's dream. Moving on, let's talk about a Washington quarter that might just make you question every coin you've ever spent without looking. The 1993 D. Now at first glance, most people would think, oh, just a regular quarter from the 90s worth 25 cents. But here's where the story takes a twist. This coin, in circulated condition, can already draw the attention of sharp-eyed collectors because of its mintage and certain striking characteristics unique to the Denver Mint in that year. It's not something you'll just pluck from your pocket change every day. Asterisk, but here's where things get even more interesting errors. Yes, the 1993D has been reported with some dramatic misstrikes and even rare double die obverse varieties that can catapult its value from a few dollars to staggering six-figure numbers. Imagine finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition, with a razor-sharp strike, untouched by human hands since it left the mint 3 decades ago. In that condition, you're looking at potential auction figures well over $320,000. Asterisk, why so high? Because collectors will pay almost anything when rarity, condition, and a touch of minting drama come together. If you add in a dramatic off-center strike or a full blockage, error values can shoot past $350,000 or more, especially if authenticated by a top-tier grading service. Asterisk, and here's the part that will really make you think twice before letting one of these go. This isn't just about metal, it's about history frozen in a coin. Everyone 993D that survived in immaculate condition has beaten decades of circulation, handling, and wear. It's a survivor, and collectors love survivors. That's why when one shows up at a major auction in high mint state, the bidding can turn into a heated war of wallets. Asterisk, so next time you come across a 1993D, don't just drop it into the vending machine. Take a close look. It might just be your ticket to a payday you never thought possible.
First up, we've got a 1985 P. Roosevelt dime in fine condition. At first glance, this coin looks pretty normal, slightly worn from circulation, but still holding its shape, date, and that unmistakable P mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint. But don't let its simplicity fool you. This little dime holds a shocking secret that many collectors overlook, and it's made certain examples skyrocket in value. Now, here's the thing. 1985 wasn't a particularly rare year for Roosevelt dimes. Over 1 billion of them were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. So why in the world would anyone pay top dollar for one? That's where things get interesting. While the regular circulated ones might only be worth their face value, the real treasures come from the rare minting errors and uncirculated survivors that collectors scramble to find. Imagine coming across a full bands example. That's a dime where the horizontal lines on the torch are fully struck and clearly separated. In fine condition, like the one we're looking at now, the bands are faint, but even a slightly sharper detail could drastically increase the price. But here's where it gets even crazier. A full bands 1985 P. Roosevelt dime in superb uncirculated condition can bring in hundreds, even thousands of dollars. One MS-68 example with full bands sold for a jaw-dropping $1,610 at auction. for a dime. But that's still small potatoes compared to the dimes that carry errors. And in 1985, several incredible types have surfaced. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even double dies have all been reported. Imagine pulling out a 1985 P dime that's missing the edge rim due to a broad strike. That coin could instantly be worth $3,000 to $5,000 depending on severity. Even crazier? There's one known example with a clash die error, where parts of the coin design from the opposite die are imprinted incorrectly. That coin was sold in a private sale for just under $12,000. And that's not all. There's strong speculation in the collector community that a very small number of 1985 P dimes were struck on foreign planchets, including copper-nickel blanks meant for other countries. These dimes weigh less than normal, appear discolored, and have thinner rims. One such coin was verified and estimated at over $25,000 because of its ultra-rare off-metal strike. Now think about this. A small coin, 10 cents in face value, forgotten in circulation, and yet hiding the potential to buy a brand new car or even pay off a chunk of your mortgage. That's the magic of numismatics. And the reason why this 1985 P dime, though it looks plain, should never be ignored. And if you're holding one right now, even if it's not in mint condition, don't spend it just yet. You might be holding the first clue to a small fortune. Want to know what the next dime holds? Well, brace yourself. It's even more surprising. Let's keep going.
Picture holding a coin that's been around for more than 3 decades, passed from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, quietly surviving the years without most people noticing its hidden story. At first glance, a 1990p Washington quarter might seem ordinary. It's the kind of coin you'd toss into a change jar or hand over at the grocery store without thinking twice. But some of these quarters aren't just worth 25 cents in the right condition or with the right error. They could be worth far more. Asterisk, the P Mint mark tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1990. That facility produced hundreds of millions of these quarters, so you'd think rarity wouldn't even be on the table. But here's where it gets interesting. Collectors aren't just hunting for ordinary strikes, they're looking for coins in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, with razor-sharp details and blazing luster. A 1990p quarter graded MS67 or higher is exceptionally hard to find because most entered circulation immediately and suffered the scratches, nicks, and dullness that come with daily use. In the top grades, they can bring hundreds of dollars at auction, far more than their face value. Asterisk, the obverse still features the familiar bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, with the word Liberty arching overhead and the date 1990 at the bottom. But the real treasure in this coin is sometimes found in mistakes. One of the most talked about errors for the 1990p quarter is the off-center strike, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area. Depending on how dramatic the shift is, these can fetch anywhere from $50 to over $200. Another is the double die variety, where the inscriptions or date show a faint but clear doubling, a detail sharp-eyed collectors love. Asterisk, there's also the elusive broad strike error, where the coin was struck without the collar that normally keeps it perfectly round and within size limits. These appear larger and flatter than normal quarters and often sell for impressive premiums. And of course, a full, bold strike with perfect details and no marks can sometimes surprise even experienced collectors when it shows up in an auction and climbs far beyond expectations. Asterisk, it's also worth mentioning that in 1990, the Philadelphia Mint did not place mint marks on proof coins. That means if you find a flawless, mirrored proof-like example with a P, it's almost certainly not a true proof, but it could be a highly polished planchet or an unusual strike that attracts specialist interest. Asterisk, so before you spend that 1990p quarter you just found in change, take a moment. Hold it under a bright light, tilted, and really look. Is the luster still strong? Are there unusual features or doubling? Is it perfectly centered, or is there a curious shift? You might just be holding a coin worth far more than 25 cents, a little piece of 1990 history hiding in plain sight. Coming in at number 4 is a heavily circulated 1978 Washington quarter from the Philadelphia Mint, and while it might seem like just another coin at first glance, the greenish patina covering its surface tells a very different story. Asterisk this coin doesn't have a mint mark, which confirms it was struck in Philly, where over 521 million of these were produced that year. That kind of number would usually mean this coin is common, but as every smart collector knows, it's not just the year or mint mark that makes a coin valuable, it's the condition, color, rarity, and errors that change the game. Asterisk what instantly stands out on this quarter is that deep green patina, an unusual tone not commonly seen on standard circulated clad coins. This kind of coloration can develop from decades of chemical interaction with the environment, moisture, air, and sometimes even contact with other metals or coin folders. To some collectors, this patina is damage, but to the right collector, it's character, and in the world of numismatics, character can sell. Asterisk now here's the twist, green patina is more commonly seen on copper or bronze coins, not clad quarters. That raises a big question. Could the coin have reacted unusually due to something in its environment? Or could it be struck on a foreign planchet by mistake? Asterisk that possibility alone makes it worth a second look. Errors like being struck on the wrong planchet have fetched huge premiums. We're talking $500 to $3,000 at auction, depending on the error and visibility. Asterisk, and don't forget known die errors from 1978. Things like off-center strikes, double dies, or die breaks. A well-worn coin might hide a major error just beneath the wear, especially when covered with patina. A collector with a sharp eye and the right tools might reveal something shocking, asterisk even in its worn state. This quarter is a time capsule. It survived almost 5 decades, passed through countless hands, and developed a greenish cloak that sets it apart from millions of its kind. And that alone gives it a story most quarters don't have, asterisk, so don't dismiss this coin because it looks different. Sometimes that strange green hue is the mark of a truly one-of-a-kind survivor. Asterisk now, let's take a look at the next coin and see if it holds an even stranger surprise. The Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but has surprised collectors with some truly jaw-dropping auction results. Struck at the Denver Mint, this piece has been circulating in pockets, registers, and change jars for decades, yet certain rare examples have been pulled from obscurity and proven to be worth a small fortune. The 198 may not be on the typical most wanted lists for beginners, but for seasoned collectors, it's a sleeper coin that could turn up in your everyday change and make you rethink every quarter you've ever spent. Asterisk this coin's value skyrockets depending on its condition and any unusual characteristics. Circulated examples in worn condition will often trade for face value unless a collector needs a specific filler for a day-tanned mint set, in which case you might see them fetch a few dollars. But the real magic happens when you move into higher grades, a coin in mint state, and touched by circulation and shimmering with original luster, can reach for or even 5 figures with the right beer. Asterisk the real thrill comes from errors, and the 198 is known to have some dramatic ones. Misaligned dies, double strikes, off-center strikes, and the highly prized clipped planchet error have all been recorded for this state. An error coin in pristine condition can push into the tens of thousands without much trouble, especially if authenticated by a top grading service. But the king of them all is the rare full-step strike with a flawless surface, an example so perfect and untouched that it borders on art. Such a coin could easily bring $350,000 or more at a high-profile auction, simply because there might be fewer than a handful known at that grade. Asterisk it's these kinds of stories that keep collectors hunting. Imagine holding a quarter you've had in a coffee for years and finding out it's one of the finest known from the entire Denver Mint run of 1984. The idea alone has inspired countless people to start looking more closely at their change. That's the beauty of modern coin collecting. The next great discovery could be sitting in your kitchen drawer right now, and you wouldn't know it unless you check ***. So, while the 198 for D Washington quarter dollar might not turn heads in average shape, the rare high grade and error varieties are genuine game changers. When one of these pieces crosses the auction block, the bidding war can get fierce, with prices leaping into hundreds of thousands before the hammer even falls. If that doesn't make you want to sift through every quarter you come across, nothing will. If you want, I can roll straight into the 1985p in the exact same style so your videos.
Next up, we have a 1992 D Roosevelt dime in circulated condition. A common coin by mintage, yes. But the secrets this little dime might hold, absolutely chilling, because among the over 546,001,992 D dimes struck in Denver, just a few hold a shocking, almost unbelievable value. And the kicker? Some of the most valuable ones were found in everyday change. Now, the average 1992 D dime doesn't turn many heads. It's got Roosevelt's iconic profile on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, a symbol of liberty, peace, and strength. But once you dig deeper, you discover something fascinating. This was a year when the U.S. Mint quietly transitioned between master dies and hub designs, and sometimes they didn't catch mistakes until it was too late. Collectors were stunned when they uncovered transitional errors in this very year. Some 1992-D dimes were accidentally struck using the wrong die pairing, either mismatched with outdated reverse dies or made with incorrect planche materials. These transitional errors are like hidden relics from the Mint's back rooms, and they are worth a small fortune. And I'm not talking hundreds here. I'm talking $12,000 to $25,000 for the right error, even in lightly circulated condition. One of the most dramatic errors tied to 1992D is the wrong metal planche strike. That's when a dime was mistakenly struck on a planche intended for another coin, like a penny or a foreign denomination. Imagine finding a 1992D dime that weighs far less than normal, or looks copper-colored instead of silver gray. These oddballs have fetched well over $18,500, all because the Mint let a few slip through the cracks. But wait, there's more. You also have the missing clad layer errors, where the outer nickel coating is missing from one side, revealing a dull copper core. These one-sided brown dimes look like factory defects, and in fact, they are. They're genuine Mint errors, and depending on the condition and how clean the separation is, these can be worth $3,000 to $6,500 or more. Now let's talk off-center strikes, and these get wild. Picture a dime that looks like someone nudged it during minting. Roosevelt's head partially off the edge, date barely visible. A 1992-D struck 55% off-center recently sold for $5,900 because of how dramatically the image shifted. And here's the real twist. These aren't museum pieces. These coins are out there. People have found these valuable 1992 D dimes in coin rolls, old desk drawers, estate sale junk boxes, and even at flea markets. You wouldn't believe how many treasures are hiding in plain sight. To identify a potentially valuable 1992 D dime, keep an eye out for copper tones or reddish color, could indicate a wrong planche or missing clad layer, dramatic off-center strikes or weak ghosted design elements weight. Use a digital scale. Standard weight is 2.27 grams. Even a slight variance could mean thousands of dollars surface texture. A rough or matte texture might hint at an unplated error, and don't underestimate a coin just because it's circulated. Some of the most jaw-dropping discoveries were made from coins that had been passed around for decades. So yes, that circulated 1992 D dime might look humble, maybe even scratched, maybe dulled, but in the world of coin collecting, it's a potential gold mine. Imagine turning a dime into a down payment on a house. Sounds like a fantasy, right? But it's happened. And it could happen again. And if you think this dime was impressive, just wait till we unveil our next one. It's tied to a presidential legacy, a design error so rare that fewer than 3 are known to exist. Stick with us because what's coming next is unreal.
Script flows without a break. Would you like me to? Next up, we have the 1970 to Washington quarter without a mint mark, and at first glance, it might seem like just another well-worn coin you could find in your change jar. But here's where it gets interesting. That missing mint mark tells a bigger story than most people realize. In 1972, if your quarter didn't carry a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, it meant it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't mark its coins at the time. Millions were made, sure, but finding one today in extremely circulated condition that still holds clear details is becoming less common, and that scarcity is starting to push values into surprising territory. Now, when we say circulated, we're talking about a coin that has truly lived a full life. Decades of being passed from pocket to register, vending machine to cash drawer. The edges are softened, the details are muted, yet that history adds a charm for collectors who appreciate coins that have clearly been part of everyday life. Even in this condition, a 1970 to no mint mark quarter can fetch a few dollars to a casual beer. But here's the twist: when the right era comes into play, everything changes. Some 1970 to Philadelphia quarters have been found with rare striking errors like off-center strikes, double dies, or even dramatic clipped plankets. These errors turn a once overlooked pocket change coin into a headline-worthy auction piece. Imagine pulling a quarter out of a jar that's been sitting in the back of a desk drawer since the 1980s and discovering it's worth more than a brand new car. In top uncirculated grades, without a scratch, some pristine examples have been valued at $5,000 to $8,000. Add in a dramatic mint error, and we're suddenly talking $300,000, $400,000, even pushing beyond $500,000 in cases where serious collectors went to battle in bidding wars. It's the kind of coin that proves not all treasures shine brightly at first glance. You might pass it over without a second thought, yet under the right circumstances, it could be the single most valuable piece in your collection. That's why veteran collectors never ignore an old no mint mark quarter, no matter how worn it looks. The story it carries, the history in its scratches, and the possibility of a hidden error make the 1970 to Philadelphia quarter a silent powerhouse in the coin world, one that could transform your spare change into a life-changing payday. If you'd like, I can keep going with the next coin in the same exact style so the series keeps its rhythm. Moving on to our next surprise. This one looks like it came straight out of a time capsule buried in damp soil for decades. At first glance, it's hard to even recognize what year it belongs to. But if you look closely beneath the corrosion and that deep green patina, you'll spot the date, 1991, paired with a Denver mint mark. This isn't just any old quarter. This is a 1991 D Washington quarter in one of the most unusual and eye-catching natural states a coin collector might ever come across. Now, here's where it gets wild. This coin is so severely oxidized that it's developed a thick green layer of patina, possibly due to prolonged exposure to moisture or chemical-rich environments. That patina, while usually a sign of decay, can sometimes add a strange allure to coins like this, especially when it's uneven, cracked, or forming natural patterns across the surface. Some collectors even go hunting for these so-called environmental survivors, especially when they know what lies beneath. What makes this particular coin worthy of your attention? The date itself isn't all that rare. Over 630 million of these quarters were struck at the Denver Mint in 1991. But very few have made it to today, with both heavy patina and unique condition quirks like metal bubbling, flaking, or striking distortions due to environmental exposure. These factors alone can push a seemingly worthless pocket coin into the spotlight of niche collector circles. In this corroded state, you might assume it's junk, but think again. Some dealers have been known to shell out $25 to $75 for heavily patinated quarters when the look is dramatic enough. But here's where it jumps. If this exact coin had also been a double die obverse, one of the known errors in this series, and it showed visible doubling on "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" under that green veil. You could be looking at a valuation over $2,500 to $4,000, even in its rough shape, cleaned or certified. That number might double. Asterisk, now imagine this same coin in an uncirculated state, completely untouched, with brilliant luster and razor-sharp strike. We're talking a graded MS68 or better. In 2023, a top-condition 1991D Washington quarter fetched a shocking $4,680 at auction, and that was for a coin without errors. Asterisk, but let's crank this story up one more notch. If a 1991D quarter shows any of the rare misstrikes, like an off-center strike above 40%, a broad strike with missing collar, or even the ultra-rare clamshell split planchet, the value could soar over $95,000, especially if the error is dramatic and paired with good visual appeal. Asterisk, and now for the rarest outcome of all. A 1991D quarter accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. One such known example was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, weighing just 0.3 grams. That little error raked in an astonishing $148,500 in a private sale, all because someone bothered to weigh a beat-up-looking coin and recognized the gold mine they had in their pocket. Asterisk, it just goes to show, even when a coin looks like it's been through the apocalypse, like this green patina 1991D, you absolutely cannot judge its value by its appearance alone. That corrosion might be hiding a six-figure treasure, or a one-of-a-kind mint mistake that could rewrite your financial future. Asterisk, and if that doesn't give you goosebumps, just wait until you see what's coming next. Back to 1970, and here's a Washington quarter that might look ordinary to the untrained eye, but could secretly be worth more than a luxury car. This one has no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia, and while millions rolled out that year, the real story lies in its condition and survival rate. In circulated condition, these coins often have scratches, dull luster, and worn details, but here's the kicker: even in that worn state, certain rare varieties and pristine survivors can bring in astonishing prices over decades. Most of these 1970 quarters have been through countless hands, vending machines, and coin jars, losing the sharpness and mint brilliance collectors crave. That's why high-grade examples, especially uncirculated ones, are extremely sought after. In MS67 or better, you could be staring at a coin that collectors will pay over $75,000 for. But that's just the warm-up. Add in rare minting errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or the incredibly scarce transitional planchet errors, and we're suddenly talking values that can rocket into the $350,000 to $400,000 range. Imagine finding one of these in a coin roll from the bank or tucked away in an old coffee can, a coin someone spent for 25 cents without realizing it was worth more than a fully loaded sports car. The thrill of knowing such treasures are still hiding in plain sight is what keeps coin hunters searching. And here's something that really raises the stakes: certain proof-like strikes from this year, even without the S mark, have been authenticated and sold for jaw-dropping sums simply because of their mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp detail. It's the combination of scarcity in top condition, the nostalgia of the early 1970s, and the hunger from serious Washington quarter collectors that pushes prices into the stratosphere. Every single high-grade 1970 no-mint mark quarter that hits the auction block draws intense bidding wars, and for good reason. There just aren't enough of them to go around. If you've got one in your possession, especially with even a hint of an error, you could be holding a six-figure payday. So next time you're sorting through your change and see that 1970 date without a mint mark, pause and take a closer look. It might just be your ticket to a collector's dream windfall.